Good evening, guys. So I started working on this blue line, and I thought I had been recording, but I hadn't been. So what I am in the middle of doing right now is just kind of refining some of the hand areas and stuff on this. And I'm going to get the character's name Barbariana from Kung Fury. And I had always loved that character, and so I thought I could do something along the line of this and maybe try doing a slight version of her tonight based on one of her iconic poses and stuff. And let's see here. Yeah, it's going to go down that way more. So now I'm just kind of going in, and what I'm going to do is start up here a little bit on the top and start to fill in some details. Go ahead and save this. So let me see here. I'm going to widen my pen size a little bit and have some. Hopefully this will come out okay. Let's make sure I'm drawing on the right layer. So I got my blue line underneath, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump into this and see what ends up happening here. I don't really take the time to do a lot of fan art stuff like this. Tonight it kind of hit me where I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just jump into something for the fun of it and see exactly how far I can go with it. So I got really excited earlier, and I thought I was recording in OBS, and lo and behold, I was not, much to my chagrin. So there's that. I have no idea if this thing is, it's weird. Like I get real nervous, and I'm not sure why recording. Considering that earlier there was another. I did another show earlier with Phil on conversations, and it was a heck of a good time. Had a good guest tonight. Everything else like that, it went really well. I really enjoyed everything, and that's live, and I thought to myself, well, like, man, I need to be able to calm down a bit more when I'm doing my own stuff, and I get so freaked out about, doing art live. And I think some of it comes from just the fact that I feel a little bit like, oh, what if I mess this up? What if this is live and I completely jack this up or something? But truth is that, if I do, I do. Not a lot I can do about it. So, this is really weird too. I normally would probably pencil in a lot tighter if I was doing this traditionally. And I'd probably have overworked the blue line to some degree. I'm kind of glad I'm not doing that now. And I'm just kind of playing around with the shapes of the hair and stuff. Bring the neck in. One thing I don't like about digital drawing is that I don't have a comfortable way to turn the paper per se as much as I would. I know that there's some tricks. You can use the wheel on the more advanced Cintiqs and Wacom tablets and stuff like that to change which way you're drawing and that sort of thing, but it seems a little strange to me. So I just forced myself to kind of get in here and just draw using what I got. As far as orientation, that sort of thing. All right. So, it actually wasn't the hair. That was the horn here on the head. So I hope you guys are enjoying the shows. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, we had, I'm probably getting his name wrong, Kevin Garcia, who is a comic book historian. And I had heard of that before. I didn't really honestly know a lot about it. I find that fascinating, that there's people out there that are writing down the living history of Marvel Comics or DC Comics or any of these other comic book companies' histories, and that to me is just stunning. I find that very cool. Because, when you get to thinking about it, there are a ton of different comic books out there and histories behind them and all this other stuff. So I can imagine that's not the the simplest thing to try and do. I mean, it's a type of writing, and I meant to ask him more questions tonight about that, but I didn't. We ran out of time. Like a lot of those interviews, I sometimes get so enthralled watching Phil, who's my co-host and the leader of this effort. You know, when he's getting in there and asking people about what they, how they do stuff and what they do and all those other sorts of things, and I get really enthralled in that aspect. Wanting to know like the details, and I forget to ask my own questions in that process. And I always get mad at myself about that. I'm like, I got to get better at that. I've really got to start asking some questions and get in there and, that sort of thing. So, and it's not that I don't have the opportunity or anything else like that. I think I love listening to people talk about their careers and what they're happy about and this sort of thing and the challenges they go through and how they got there, which is something I really would. I know that that's a question I always had, was like, how in the hell did you get to doing this sort of stuff? Like, where was the point where you're like, I'm going to be a comic book historian? Like, how do you go to school for that? How do you figure that stuff out? Like, what's the what's the catalyst that makes you go, yep, that's what I'm gonna do, and that sort of thing. That just fascinates the hell out of me. All right, I think that's looking pretty good so far. Some line work in here. Let's save this before it crashes on me. Let's see here. This is another one that's mainly just for fun. It's to kind of loosen up tonight. And not much more than that. I need to get into doing my other stuff. It's weird when I get so much into the drawing part of this that the ones that are fun are kind of sloppy, and they're their own things uniquely, and I don't expect them to be much more than some sketches or maybe something that I can use as a little demo or just something for fun that people can go back and watch if they so desire. And I always forget that I could be working on the main illustrations for Ardor. But I think what happens is, because I have a pretty specific way of working, number one, it's getting easier. But talking while I'm trying to actually draw the stuff out is a little bit of a weird thing to have to go through, because in my head I'm like, oh man, I got to keep all this together. I got to keep it flowing. I've got to keep, I got to keep some interest going and talking during it. And there's some artists out there that are just stunningly good at that. And I know it's just practice makes perfect. Not a big deal. Just keep on going at it, and eventually you'll get to all of that. And, it won't be so hard to pull off. And I guess that's part of the reason why I'm trying to get better at this by doing pre-recorded stuff, is because if I get on Twitch or in anything else like that, and I'm trying to do, or if I'm trying to do live work and I'm trying to talk at the same time, I'm scared I'm going to get butterfingers, like I said earlier, or just get stage fright and not be able to pull off the stuff I want, or I'll get disappointed in a piece of work much faster, which is dumb. I shouldn't do that. I should really just appreciate what I've got going on there. Let's see here. We're going to give her maybe some sort of... I know she wears a medallion of some kind here. So we'll just make it a little rustic looking kind of medallion. Maybe it's got... maybe it's just got some weird sort of creature that looks like, a squid or something like that. Or maybe a octopus of some kind. I don't know. We'll just go with that. Give her a bit of hairline there. We'll bring the neck down a little bit. Some fur from the cape holding it there. We'll bring the hairline down here. Let's see here. A little bit of fur right there. Zoom out on this. Oh yeah, I'm liking that so far. Okay, that's definitely something I can work with. This might be a two-parter, and I might come back to this here in a little bit. I'm just going to see how fast I can ink this in without too many more problems. So maybe the fur comes up a little bit higher here for her shoulder part, and comes down like this. This is the beauty about this, is that I can really kind of go nuts inking this and not worry about, you know, too much on trying to keep stuff from overlapping too much, because I can always go back in there and erase some of this stuff. So that's not a real big problem. All right. It's actually coming out much better than I thought it was going to. All right, so we'll drop some of the fur from the hood on there. Some right there. I know I definitely wanted to hold some sort of axe, but we'll get to that here in a minute. I'm going to end up doing this in portions because I had recorded a lot of videos today and done some editing and some stuff like that. So I was already kind of feeling it earlier, and I thought, wow, I need to just kind of take a break. I'll get some of this recorded down tonight, and then kind of go from there and see how much I could get done. And I'm already feeling really tired, so I am not going to completely finish this in one sitting tonight, but I will see how far I can get and go from there. All right, add some rivets here and that sort of thing, and we'll put another bit of leather armor down here. Alright, so rivets on that one, and one more plate down here, and we'll put some parts there. And let's see here. Strap there. Strap there. Yeah, it's looking alright so far. Yeah, I don't like that line on there. Keep that okay. Sometimes I go along and I end up adding in some shading when I don't really mean to, but it's just that I remember to put the shading in there. Like sometimes I go, oh, there would be some light shading coming down from the fur trim being on these armor plates or something like that. I tend to work that in there, especially if I'm just working fast and loose with a lot of this stuff, because I want to remember what I'm doing with it and how it's going to look and all this other stuff, you know, in the finished one. If this ends up becoming something finished, that is. And right now, this is more just of a kind of a fun sort of piece for right now. Yeah, it's looking okay so far. Yeah, that's looking all right. Okay. Oh yeah, her belt comes down across here. I'm gonna make it go down a little bit, curve up, and that goes there. Chest there. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit more onto here. This is where I'll have to go back in and clean up my line work a little bit more. Sometimes I get lazy, and I'm starting to get lazy right now. So I think what I'm going to do is add a bit more detail on some other areas, and you know, kind of add in the rest tomorrow whenever I come back to this, so I make sure I'm not getting super lazy on myself on this sort of thing. I hate when I start to do that, because then I'm like, well, the end result's going to really suffer if you're not paying attention to what you're doing there and that sort of thing. And I don't want that to be the case. I want this to come out looking pretty good. I got on my own case about this because there's a lot of times that I feel like, well, if you'd push something a little bit harder, then it would have come out looking a little bit better or whatever. And I know that I tend to, when I'm working digitally, I will not. Yes, I do somewhat get lazy, and this is terrible for me to admit, because I feel like, oh, well, I can always go back and fix that. And what I end up doing is giving myself twice as much work to do, which is really stupid. I shouldn't do that at all. So what I'm going to do now is go back in here into the blue areas as I move on forward. This is good enough for right now. And I'm going to jump into doing I'm going to go ahead and correct next the blue line area of where the fists are and clean that up, so that way when I jump to inking, I'm not making it back up. And this is another instance of where early on when I started drawing, I got really excited, started kind of laying in the basic shape of what her face was going to look like, her eye shapes, all these other things that I was going to work with, and how I would go back in and more heavily outline that stuff. And then, which worked out fine. Once I laid in that, I was like, okay, I've got something to work with here, and I can, color that pretty successfully. But then as I started getting down into the arms and everything, I'm like, okay, slow down. You're getting sloppy with the anatomy. And, with the hands holding it. So I'll probably shoot some reference on my hands and do that sort of thing. I've also got these little figures that I had gotten that have little clenched fists and stuff. And I can pose that sort of stuff to use as reference, which there's nothing wrong with that. And then, kind of figure out if I want to go with this battle axe sort of shape, or something more like that. But otherwise, overall, I'm really pretty happy with this. I think this is looking pretty darn good. So I'm going to save this for now. And then I will jump back in on this here later on today, since it's 1:16 in the morning. Okay, so we're back for the second session. It's jumped a couple days. And so in that time, I managed to get a little bit more blue line drawing in here. And so we're just going to jump back in here. I added a little bit more to the hair and kind of struggled with how I wanted the hammer to look overall. And it's such a weird thing because if you've ever watched the movie Kung Fury, Barbarian uses a Gatling gun and rides a wolf. And I wanted to do something. I just smacked my microphone with my pen. I wanted to do something a little bit more classic in that respect. So we're going to jump in here, and let me switch out my brush tool to the right color. We'll go in here and just jump in. So, man, so there's been some really cool stuff that I talked about this last time that I was really, digging on. And one of them was this show that I've been doing with my buddy Phil, and it's Conversations, and it's a play on the whole con thing and all this other stuff, like conventions, not like cons, not like being a con or being an ex-con or anything else like that. And I'm gonna have to see if that hair really works out well or not. I got into doing this like sort of really angular sort of hair. I was inspired by some stuff that another artist had done, styling hair this way, and I'm still trying to figure out if that's something I want to work into what I utilize. But at any rate, getting back to the Conversations thing, it's been a blast being a part of that, and I'm really happy that we got started doing that. I've learned a lot. A lot of the people that we've invited onto the show have been just freaking brilliant in so many ways, and there's been really good things that have come out of it, and then there's been some really challenging things as well too. And I don't mean that in a negative way, not at all. I mean, like, for myself, I know that I think about a lot of what goes on during the show, and I'll go back and watch the stuff. And if you haven't seen the show, it's actually on Phil Mackey's Stay Tuned page, and it's really it's what it was supposed to be, and I guess kind of what we have going on there is a very laid back conversational kind of like just video interview. And so the first episode was just me and Phil talking about some stuff that was going on in the industry and that sort of thing. And we had always had this idea that we were going to bring people on that we knew and kind of work through this stuff, what are artists going through? What are other professionals going through? How are they dealing with all the stuff that's going on these days? And so it was something where he already had a good list, I believe, of people that were going to be coming on there and that sort of thing. And this is very much a combined effort between me and him, where it was kind of an interesting thing. I don't even remember exactly how we came around to it distinctly, but it turned into this thing where we're like, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see what we do with it, and let's just have fun with it. So it's definitely been a format where it's experimental. It's meant to be, sort of just fun, really, and just not taken too seriously, not anything we're really falling over ourselves to try and get exactly right. Although the perfectionist in both he and I is very much looking at least, and I shouldn't talk for him on this part. I can certainly say from my side, the perfectionist in me wants to go back, wants to get better at this, and wants to be able to interact more with our guests and bring you guys a really entertaining show. And the good thing about it is that because it's live, it has definitely forced me into thinking more on my feet as opposed to, like doing these, this sort of thing where it's all pre-recorded and that sort of stuff. That has given me more of an opportunity to want to, be more critical of what I'm doing while we're live and taking, more of a faceted look as to how I present myself and what I'm like when it's live. And it is a trip. I'm not gonna lie. It's it's weird to go back and look at, man, what was I thinking at that time, or what was going through my head, any of that stuff. But yeah. So if you get the chance, please check it out. That is something. His other show, Stay Tuned, will be taking a hiatus for a little while, and you can find out more again on the Filmaki Stay Tuned Facebook page and see exactly what's going on there. But this next Monday, make sure, if you guys are going to watch any show of his, watch that one. Do me that favor. And then that Tuesday, we've got another show coming up with a guest. And I believe, I had the tab open, but it's closed now. And of course, like normal, my brain has kind of like flaked out on me while I'm working on this. But I believe his name is John Maizano, and he is a sculptor that I have really liked his work for quite a while. And I'm really, really excited to get that guy on there. I'm so excited. It's a small world because Phil's good friends with him. And I'm really looking forward to getting in there and asking him questions about sculpture and all the rest of the stuff that's going on there. And that will be this coming Tuesday. I believe it's 7 o'clock Central Time, and then exponentially out from there, whatever other time frame you're in from there. So yeah. So aside from that, man, I tell you, it has been a pretty long week for me in a lot of regards. I am still not used to this whole working at home. I am and I'm not, because when I was working at the museum, which, by the way, the Nelson Atkins has opened, from what I can tell, I was able to kind of separate myself a little bit. I didn't feel like I was really that isolated. I mean, I know there were a lot of people out there, coworkers that I know from other places and stuff, that were like, oh my God, I can't, how am I going to make it through, these next few months and all this other stuff, like just this whole maddening thing for them where, I've seen everything from like, I'm just going nuts staying at home to all this other stuff. And, I get that. I understand that. When I was at the museum, though, it certainly didn't seem like it. And judging by how many people were out on the lawn, it didn't seem like anyone was quarantining or staying in. But, I guess to each their own, that whole thing. But, yeah, it's been a very interesting couple of weeks for me because, and I don't know, for those of you out there that do freelance and stuff, like if you guys have any, input on this or anything else like that, please weigh in the comments. I have had a hell of a time. Like sometimes I feel like it's the weirdest thing in the world because like, I know that like there's things here in the studio that I'm trying to organize and work on and that sort of stuff. And, there's always that sort of thing going on because, the studio is always the nature of it is it's always a work in progress. I'm reorganizing my project boards. I'm, going through, old hobby stuff, and I'm continually trying to upgrade my my video presentation stuff and preparing myself to go live more often and do even more video content. So there's always something extra to do. But do any of you ever feel guilty whenever you're cleaning, your house, or you're doing anything else like that, and feeling like, I should be doing this, I should be drawing more, I should be doing anything? And I had a teacher in college, George Sample, and that guy, I think he'd be, he's still around, and I think he'd be pretty remiss if he understood that a lot of artists, myself especially, feel like, well, if people don't know that I'm drawing, am I really drawing? It's like this weird, sort of this is weird way to look at it, but it's true. I end up stuck in this thought process where I'm like, yeah, but I need to have something that I can share, that I can post, and all these other sorts of things, and there's no reason for that. I mean, there's really nothing, there's no reason for me to have to post anything. I'm drawing because I want to draw. I'm drawing because I need to stay in practice, and that should be good enough. But it is interesting in that, I find myself being locked into a lot of weird thought patterns when it comes to this, because, as much as I don't normally draw a lot of stuff like this freehand on, drawing digitally, and I'm getting used to doing a lot of this stuff, not in Photoshop anyway. I do a lot of stuff in Illustrator, and I love building shapes and all that other stuff in there. But I kept telling myself, I was like, you got to get back into doing more freehand stuff and trying some things. And this has been a real challenge because I don't have as much control with the Wacom as I do with my pens and stuff. But the challenge is also because I record late at night, I don't have all the lighting I need, and the desk I have that I normally have my camera set up on to draw on Bristol board and stuff is a mess. It's got all kinds of sculpture stuff piled up on it right now. So where was I going with this? That's my question is, do you guys ever feel like, whenever you're doing something like this, that you have, there's other stuff you should be doing? Do you feel like, oh God, why am I sitting here trying to be an artist whenever, there's dishes piled up, or maybe the cat litter hasn't been changed yet, or, have I done my laundry for the day? That sort of thing. Just insane things that go through my head. And recently I had been kind of freaking out because there was a circumstance where I'm involved with trying to create some three-dimensional characters for an intellectual property. And the long story short is that, I was kind of happy doing that. I think everything will be okay. And then there was a circumstance that's come up that I'm still trying to kind of work through, where I'm not sure that, I was completely comfortable with everything and how it was going. And it didn't have anything to do with the intellectual property, but it was well outside of my own hands. And I ended up spending way more time concentrating on that and freaking out about it for no real reason. I mean, there was nothing I could do about it, and it wasn't anything necessarily bad. I was just worried about it and worried about how everything was going to pan out. And, and that's something I do. I suffer from really bad anxiety. I have a hell of a time convincing myself that things are not going to be terrible. The world isn't falling apart, that whole Chicken Little kind of thing. And, but in that circumstance, I felt like, there was something more I could do, or I don't know. I hate that, because when I feel really helpless, I end up overreacting about a lot more things than I should. And that's never good for my ulcer, for my anxiety, for any number of things that I may have wrong with me. And sometimes, like, I'm grateful for right now because I'm drawing, I'm recording, I'm getting stuff down, and I can let problems that I have in other stuff I'm working on kind of float away for a while. And then I'm able to focus on something like this and just have fun. And that's a big deal for me. It really is, because there's a lot of times when I feel like, oh God, I'm going to end up really freaking out over the next few weeks over things I have to get finished and taken care of. But then I've been trying to celebrate getting back into drawing more like this, and just letting stuff slide, just letting things go, and trying not to be too overly worried about things. And that sounds like such a slacker attitude. I don't mean it that way. What I mean is there are some things you just can't control. You just can't. If you spend your life freaking out about those things, imagine all the rest of the stuff you're going to miss out on. And so I try to pragmatically approach that and go, well, can't do anything about that right now. So what else can I do that's more productive? I'm sorry if I'm rambling. I'm trying my best to, kind of keep focused on this at the same time that I'm trying to talk to you guys and that sort of thing. So I'm hoping I'm doing a decent job with that. All right, let me zoom out here and see what this is looking like so far. Yeah, I'm liking that Warhammer quite a bit. All right, now I just noticed right now that I was going with a bit of a thicker outline on this, and so put in the fur here, bit of her leg here. Yeah, that's working. All right, so I'm going to go back in with a little heavier line now and start retracing over what I have. So what that looks like. Let me save this. So, okay, and so let's jump subject matters back to the whole thing of going live. So one of the things that has held me up on this for a long time has been that I'm always scared I'm boring. I mean that, sincerely. It's even one of the things keeping me off of TikTok. I love doing spoken word. I love doing poetry. I love telling stories. I love being able to interact with people. But this always goes back to, and if you've seen any of my other shows or watched me for any length of time, you'll know what I'm talking about on this. Years ago, I tried doing the whole stand-up comedy thing, and it was bad. It was so bad. And I really struggled with that, the whole aftermath of that and everything. And I don't know. Ever since then, it's been this thing where I feel like that whole nightmare is going to reignite itself for me again. And really, there's no reason to think that that's going to really happen. I mean, I don't know where it's coming from. I wish I had an answer for exactly why I feel that way. I don't have one. And it's been so messed up. It's been so paralyzing that that it stopped me on more than a couple occasions. There was about probably 2 months ago. I was ready to go, had my stream account, I had my stream ready to go on Twitch, and at the last minute, pull the plug. It's not like I'd advertised it, not like I'd said anything about it. I just wanted to get out there. I just wanted to try it. And which is, sure, why not? And then something happened, and I couldn't do it. I just froze. It was, not great. And I think the thing is that, I ended up measuring myself up against a lot of other people out there doing it. And I'm like, well, I'm never going to be that good. I'm never going to be as entertaining as some of these people. And but the truth is that just like, making this art, not everyone's going to like barbarian women. And, and that's fair. I mean, those people are dead inside. So, I'm joking. You're only halfway dead inside. No, seriously, I really just am so freaking critical nowadays. And it's weird because when I was younger, I used to be a lot more reckless, a little bit more brave, I guess. Or maybe it wasn't brave. Maybe it was just I was too young and stupid to realize what did and didn't work. Because, boy, there's... On my YouTube channel, I think I have probably around 60 or 70 videos currently. But there's about 240, I think, I've lost count, that are super hidden or that have been deleted over the years of just past efforts I did where I was like, what was I thinking? Why did I create this? Just bad, terrible videos. I thought I was being funny or edgy or whatever. And just, yeah, it's just cringeworthy, super cringe. And so, you know, I think some of that comes back to haunt me sometimes, where I'm like, oh God, you know, why was I doing that? But you know, we all got to start somewhere, right? So at any rate, the goal for this year, for the remainder of this year, I'm going to try and salvage what I can out of 2020. I don't know about you guys, but for the remainder of this year, I really want to, you know, focus on trying to do something I hadn't done, which is go live, go really live on Twitch, and you know, see how that goes. Because here's the thing, guys, I have found that I can't really rely on a lot of things that are going on out there. Freelance is great, other stuff like that's fantastic, but I got to find something that is going to make me happy, and at the exact same time allow me to be able to be more progressively brave, more progressively happy with what I'm trying to create out there. And I want something that, you know, when I do it, I feel pride in it, you know, that I'll be able to go, yeah, man, I really did enjoy this. This was really cool. And this is something that I can see myself doing for at least the next, you know, few years. And then we'll go from there. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm liking that heavier line weight on there. So what does it look like? Oh no, there's blue line there. Look at that. See, now that is horrible. So in case you guys don't know what's going, I actually inked over with blue line on the wrong layer. So I'm going to have to go in and do some creative stuff with that. That's okay. That's not a really big deal. I mean, is what it is. This is just practice, so I'm not that concerned with it. If I really want to, I'm going to have to. But the bad part is I'm really going to have to go in there and save that. But that's okay. Not that worried. Happy little accidents. We'll see. Maybe there's a reason why that's supposed to happen that way. So whenever I'm doing this stuff in Photoshop, a lot of this, I know that I don't really work with like a lot of other digital artists do. I know there's a ton of people that are like, oh, I use this brush and that sort of thing. There's a lot of people that work in Procreate, and I dig that, man. A friend of mine was telling me about what she does in Procreate and how she works in there and how different it is and all this other stuff. And I really got to get that going at some point in time. I think I got to get a working iPad though. That's kind of the big thing I need. I hear that's really important to get to run apps. Is a you know, an iPad, especially Procreate. And I guess Procreate has this really cool mirror drawing tool, something like that. I don't know why my voice went up like that. I guess I'm from New Zealand. You ever notice that? I was noticing that the other day. Was watching the appendices, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the Lord of the Rings. And whenever they're talking, they I know I've told you guys about this before, but I was watching like a lot of the Kiwis and stuff that worked on it. You know, when you have an Australian accent, they tend to talk with a lower bit of a pitch in their voice. So whenever they're talking about the artwork they're working on, there's more of an even keel to how they're speaking, and they talk a lot more about you know, things, you know, much. It seems like they have a bit more of a pragmatic sort of way of talking, and the Kiwis. So when you're not from Australia, and you're from New Zealand, the people from New Zealand, they have a similar sort of thing, but it's a little bit more musical, a little more bouncy. And whenever they're talking, they tend to end all of their sentences on a bit of a question, a little bit of a high turn there at the end. And they have some of the best. I've got a buddy who's a bush pilot out in Australia, and he has some of the weirdest sayings. And I'm not sure if it comes from New Zealand or Australia, but I had heard it one time, and I thought, oh my God, Peter Jackson says that. That's hilarious. But I know I brought this up in another video, but there's a ton of them where they talk about things like, you know, like, and pardon my language on this. This is definitely one of my channel is not for kids, but there's one where in Australia they'll say something like, you know, we might say something like, well, we're not here to waste time. They'll say something like, well, you know, we're not here to fuck spiders. And I love that. I absolutely love that. It's weird because I remember as a kid, I never even thought about, you know, I used to do voices and accents when I was a little kid, and I love that kind of stuff. And to this day, that's what I know that whenever I begged people at Hallmark. I must have driven them nuts. I was sure that every character, I think they were sick and tired of me by that point in time. They're like, oh God, this guy. Because I'd come in, I'm like, yeah. So do you guys need an accent today? No, we just need your voice. Can you just do normal voice acting? And instead, like there was one particular role. I was so happy when I finally got to do it. And it's literally an ass. It was a donkey, a talking donkey. So one of the greeting cards I got to be was a talking donkey. And oh God, I'm going to totally mess it up now. But I remember that the voice director was like, I want something that sounds like Stewie off of Family Guy. I thought, well, I think I can do that. But it's weird. You think you can do that sort of thing, and then when you get into the booth, all of a sudden everything leaves your head, or at least it did with me. I was so freaking nervous. I was like, oh God. And I tried my best to do was a terrible impersonation of Stewie from Family Guy. And then once I was doing it, I remember them saying, well, that's not really what I wanted. I just wanted a Cockney accent. And I remember one of the engineers in there was like, oh God, there's not going to be any living with him now. And I couldn't get it right though, because I went everything from like sort of a lower sort of end, sort of a bumbling sort of English accent to almost like what's his face. I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Mary Poppins, and that accent isn't even really an English accent. It's because he was like "Morning, governor" and all that sort of thing, and that's actually a little closer, but. He had what sounded like an Australian accent in there, because remember it was like so over the top. He was like, "Oh, hey, they all Mary Poppins," and I don't know, it's weird, and I know that like it's easy to end up getting that stuff mixed up whenever you're in there and you're recording. And for me, one of the things I didn't have was a really good trained ear to tell when my cadence, my pitch, my delivery was really changing. I'd get so nervous. I was such in the moment where I just wanted to kill that audition that I killed the audition, and not in a good way. They'd be like, let's move on. I'm like, no, I can get it. But there was a point in there where I couldn't get this ass. I couldn't get that. That is such a weird phrase to say. I couldn't get this donkey to work. The voice for it. And there was something I did where I had to pretend like I was a smartass, and not a big stretch for me. And so what it was I had to go in there and I had to say something like the circumference of the earth is something, and then there was a decimal point. There was something about the way I said it, and I was able to lock onto that. So it was something like, if you want to say like a percentage, you'll say, a point, 6024, but it wasn't really a British accent. I guess it was a bit of a posh British accent, and it was a weird amalgamation. It wasn't. Later I listened to it, I'm like, that sounds all right. If you ever find it out there, I don't even know if Hallmark is still making that card or not, but it's a giant donkey's head with like googly eyes and the jaw moves. It's a sound card. That's me on there, and that was I don't you know what, I don't even know how in the world I got on that bit, but that was one where I guess we'll stick with that subject matter, since I have no idea how in the ding dong I even got here. That is one that I think I had a lot of fun with, and I did some other ones too. I had to do a Spanish accent, which I really messed that one up too, because in my head, whenever you hear a Spanish accent at that point in time, I always thought of Antonio Banderas and how he would talk. And I think I also, shortly after I did some of those, I did another one too where I tried out for Thor, and I couldn't get that one right. I don't even remember what I did in the thing. But Thor, like Chris Hemsworth, actually he's from Australia, but he doesn't have he doesn't have like Steve Irwin kind of accent. It's kind of nasally, and whenever he talks, especially when he's Thor, he has this whole, I am Thor, that, and there's a way that he carries himself. And I remember like standing and, kind of stretching my chest out a little bit and talking a bit more like this whenever he's talking about Loki and that sort of thing. And I kind of got it. It's some other guy ended up getting the job. But it's, the one thing I really did like about that time was you learn a lot about yourself. You learn, what you have in you and how hard you can hit the ground running, when it comes to something like that. It also changed how I approached job interviews, which is a weird thing to say, but it is true. So, all right. So I'm going to turn off what little bit I have there. God, that just makes me so mad that blue is there. All right, we got to clean that up. I got to clean that up. That's real. You know what? I could probably work some color in behind it, and it wouldn't be so bad. That's actually coming out all right. That's not too bad at all. So I'm sorry, guys, if I was like jumping all over the place with my thought process. That I've explained it before in past videos. That's literally what happens to me. I end up going through this whole thing where I don't even think, when I'm talking. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna say whatever comes to mind and that sort of thing. And so what you're hearing is everything that goes through my head when I'm drawing. I'm super quiet, and I'll usually listen to non-lyrical music, and then I start having conversations in my head about different things, and it's really a strange exercise for me. So anyway. Oh man, I think I think I'm going to call this one done for now. I think that's because all I would end up doing now would be going back in and maybe thickening some lines around there or something like that. And there's definitely some shading and some stuff like that could happen in here. For those of you that draw, I wonder, like, do you guys ever get that whole thing where you get into something, you're like, I'm going to keep adding more lines and making this just a bit more interesting. And then later you go back and go, I put too many lines in there. I do that crap all the time. And I get mad at myself because digitally it's not that big of a deal, but it certainly can mess some pieces up. And then you end up thinking to yourself like, oh God, why did I keep pushing that? It was fine before I decided to lay these lines down. And that whole thing. All right. So I'm lying. I'm going to put a few more lines in here like that. See, that's the thing, like going live, going back to that. I think that was my original subject. I would be so freaked out because I literally would be all over the place. I'd be jumping back and forth from memories I had to other stuff and just talking crap, man. But you know what? Considering stuff I've seen online recently, I'm like, well, that wouldn't be that bad, I guess, not compared to some of the stuff I've seen out there. But I don't want to be known for that. I'd like to think that people would watch my stuff because they're like, hey, he's kind of entertaining and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about and that sort of stuff. So I know, like, I don't like that one. I have a curve like that. Let me do this. I know that I always, and to this day, when I watch reruns of, The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross, I'm always stunned with how he can talk, and he'll be like, well, right now we're going to go ahead and add some line work onto here. And you notice how happy this little skull looks right here. It's wonderful. And we're going to add some hatching in here. Now, don't worry about it. Hatching's not too precious. Just add it in there. And if you go over the lines, don't worry about it. It's a happy little accident. We'll just let those lines carry over where they need to go. Not a big deal. We're not even going to worry about it. And that is a dude that, for all the heat he ever gets, man, like, he's straight up, like, that dude could paint and talk like nobody I've ever seen. And I've watched quite a few, people that stream and talk, and they're amateurs, all of them, the whole lot of them, compared to somebody like him. Because, man, Bob Ross, you can't even hate on that, man. Like, some people might, whatever, that's fine. He is one of the biggest reasons I wanted to become an artist. Growing up, I was like, man, I want to do that. I want to paint paintings that look like they belong in a hotel room. It's so weird. Yeah. See, and sometimes this is the other part I do miss about traditional inking, is going in and kind of making the decisions on what's really going to work or what's not, and that sort of thing. And I think there was a point too, this happened the other day, I was noticing that I wasn't taking as many chances with my inking, that I'd kind of shy away and not darken stuff in as much, or not allow myself to have as much fun inking and kind of breaking lines and doing stuff like that. Like, you know, because you can get into a format, you can get into a pattern where things suddenly become so precious that, you know, you don't want to mess them up. You don't want to, you can go too far. You really can. I've worked ink drawings like that before. I was like, no, okay, should have stopped 30 minutes ago. And there's no amount of undos in Photoshop that make them work out or anything else like that. They're just terrible. And I hate when I do that, because I've done that way too many times to myself in the past. And let's see here. Some abtacularness there. Yeah. So then, see, and this is where I always hesitate, because color drives me crazy. I can work wonderfully whenever I'm doing Illustrator. There's something about working with the flat graphics and then taking that and then moving that into Photoshop and working that way. But coloring in Photoshop always gets to me. It always gets to me. So then I just end up like leaving something like this and going, you know what? I'm fine. I don't have to do much more than that. You know, I try not to do too much that will, you know, ruin a painting or anything else like that. Like that just doesn't work. Get rid of that. Yes, that was a terrible decision. Why did I do that? I'm going to have to undo brushes like crazy on this thing. I know it's Control-Z, but my keyboard's in a weird place right now. It's actually underneath the desk. And I get real gun shy when it comes to some of this stuff. One more. One more. Yeah, okay. So let's save that. All right, I think that came out okay. You know, just a fun take on Barbariana from Kung Fury, and I think it worked out okay. So something let's see if I can pull this out. My cat's actually neither one of my cats are laying over here on this. So one of the things I've been working on, I don't know if I made videos on this or not, but I had some for some of you that remember this, I have these old school, these are older works of mine. These were some of the last blocks I did. They're super resin coated. This is pen and ink on wood. I've had a few people ask me about these, and these were kind of environment blocks that I was coming up with, and they aren't easy to make. They are going up for sale. Finally, a few of you have been messaging me about this. I will be putting these back out there. I kind of bowed down to peer pressure a little bit, and I'm a little ashamed to admit that, because, you know, the whole thing, it's even got like information on the inside. Like there's like, this is a 100% like all the way around art kind of piece, and they're not easy to make. I ended up doing one too of Wednesday Addams, and this is another one that's going for sale. This one still has a little bit more stuff that needs to be put on it. Some more clear coat. And let me see here. I know I have a few others. Okay, this one here, Godzilla. This is another one. So this is one more that has to happen. These will be going to be listed on my site very soon. So, and I will show you one more. Where is it? Okay. This one is one that I think I'm going to make a few of these. This is Castle Grayskull. I had done this one a while back. These have been in storage for quite a while. They never even made it to the new shows. So a few of you who have probably been following me have seen these things. I don't know. Let me get this bit here into the light. No, that's too much. All right, so we're just going to do it right there. But so these were kind of in the round. You can see the environment. There's the dungeon for those of you that are Master of the Universe fans. And these were these weird environment block sort of things I was doing. I really dug them. My cat, of course, is now standing on them. Get out. Here's my cat who was standing on my artwork. That's Radar. And I have a few of them that I just never listed. So I will be listing those soon online on my store. You can check that out at theartisanrogue.com. And those will be one-offs. There are no reproductions going to be made of those. They can't be. There's just no way to. They do take me a while to make, so there's going to be a limited number of them. There's different characters. Some of them are of pop culture inspired sort of fan art things. And it's something that I don't do a lot of. I really have pulled back on doing a lot of that stuff because, you know, like I like doing it like this, but like this drawing isn't necessarily anything I'm going to sell. This is something that was specifically just done for this video. And those things were something that I was right in the middle of kind of working toward doing fan art and that sort of thing. But they were one-offs, and they were not something that I was going to advertise necessarily for myself, that, hey, I'm the guy that draws Grayskull in semi 3D or something. But they're definitely artworks that I've been sitting on. And the more I begin to work and move into this juncture of trying to, you know, become a self-sustaining artist completely, you know, without any limitations, that's something that I've started to decide, well, I've got this cache of like older works from a few years ago that never had the chance to make it to shows. So I'm going to put those out, and then I'll kind of decide from there if I'm going to make more of them or not. So anyway, there's that. So thank you guys for watching. And please, if you can, you know, certainly check out the conversation series that I have with Phil Maki. That is being hosted via the Stay Tuned site or page on Facebook. God, man, I got to start recording videos earlier in the evening because it's like 12 in the morning right now. And stupid faces at midnight. And check that out, and we'll be doing that for quite a while. For the foreseeable future, anyway. We're really enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to where that show is going to go and what more is going to happen with it. But you can also check out some other stuff. I know that somebody else had messaged me and said, yeah, it's been a little while since I've done a blog on my website. There hasn't been any shows to go and do, and I didn't really know what else to blog about. There were a few smaller micro blogs that were put up on there. But I really do miss going to shows and being able to show you guys photography and do a review of the show and how things went. And as it stands right now, there's a good chance that NakaCon may not be happening at the early part of next year. Let's be honest, guys. We don't know what's going to be happening with 2021, not just because of COVID and everything else that's going on with that, but just financially from an economy standpoint, who knows what will be happening. But I can tell you that I will still be trying to, I will be making more videos, and I will keep on producing content like this. And you're about to see a lot more of it coming down the pipeline now that I've managed to get some idea as to how I'm putting my stuff together and what I'm doing with it. So until then, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you guys are all safe, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching me work my way through this drawing that I ultimately ended up locking the blue line pencil onto the wrong layer. Fun. Have a good night, guys.